Hello and welcome back to the X-Files Revisited. We are on to episode 3 of season 4, and the title of this one is Teliko. Brian, how does this stand in the legacy of the X-Files?
It's my understanding that it's not very well, really. I think most people, if they've got half a brain in their head, would instantly make the connection that this is just Squeeze, Toombs, but rejigged and much lesser version of it. It's a totally forgettable episode. I think personally, because of that reason. You look at it and you just think, yeah, it's like we've had episodes before, like with Darkness Falls and Firewalker, that were both kind of rip-offs of Ice, which itself was a rip-off of the Thing. So it is, and yet, even though I wasn't that big on Darkness Falls, but I was quite surprised by how much I actually enjoyed Firewalker. I still think those episodes did enough to kind of separate themselves and stand on their own feet. Whether this one does is anybody's guess, but I think personally, most X-Files fans, if you ask them, Teliko, good episode, bad episode, I personally think it's pretty bad, and that it's mostly just a Toombs rip-off or Squeeze rip-off. Do you care to hazard a guess as to where this sits in the 217 episodes?
It can't be understated how much I enjoy this moment. I really can't. 217. I am going to go 180.
Oh, I can tell you it is lower than that. It is 204.
204. Wow. So it's really what we're doing here is scraping the bottom of the barrel.
Pretty much. Yeah. I can't. Yeah. If you were to trust that IMDb is a good reflection of X-Files fans' opinions, then and there's always going to be those who aren't. I've always. There's been times when people in forums have said Teliko, one of my favourite episodes, and I'm just like, what?
Yeah.
So there'll always be some exceptions to the rule, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Should we just get into it?
Let's dive straight into Teliko. Let's do it.
Okay. So, woodwind music on a plane of black people. Basically, this is the first thing that hits me about this episode that instantly makes me roll my eyes. I think I've pointed this out before. Whenever we've done like episodes that are about Native Americans, basically whenever we go to another culture, whenever we're in like we suddenly go to woodwind. It's like the go-to kind of instrument to emphasise the fact that we're dealing with a foreign culture. So I'll tell you right off the bat, I'm not a fan of Mark Snow's music in this episode. So woodwind music on a plane full of black people. One of these men goes to the toilet and gets jumped by something or someone, and then his body is found. When the plane lands, they basically find his body, and the black man has been turned into a white man.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know what kind of bathrooms on planes these people had, but you can barely fit one person into the ones I visited, let alone be surprised by someone else in there. I got to tell you, like the opening, I felt really blasé and uninterested about it. It didn't hook me. I don't know what it was about it. It just felt sedate almost. I was just like, oh, all right, okay, let's do it. Whereas in some episodes you get the hook in the start and you're just like, wow, like Home. The start of that one really grabs you, and I feel it's if an episode of the X-Files doesn't have that hook at the start, you're really having to work to get on board with it.
Yeah,
And personally, I find this one a little bit disinteresting.
Yeah, it's a guy who goes to the toilet, and then the implication there that a black man has been turned into a white man. It's like, okay, where's this going? But not in an intriguing way. More, I'm a bit nervous.
Careful.
Yeah. It's you're instantly thinking Michael Jackson jokes are about to, and they will. So we get some music as Scully goes to Skinner's dimly lit office, which I found really amusing. So she goes to his office and she's asked to look into a homicide / disease of a black / now white man's body that was found. Not the same man that was on the plane, though. Just to confuse matters. There's an implication there that in this shady meeting that they don't want her to tell Mulder. It's kind of implied, look, keep this to yourself, don't tell Mulder, and we want you to investigate this purely from a, scientific disease kind of aspect. But yeah, again, like I said, the whole setup for me was just hilarious because it was like Watergate. It was just, the music was really kind of sinister, and when you find out where she's actually going, it's just Skinner's office. We've been there 1,000 times. You know what I mean? It's like it shouldn't be lit this way. It shouldn't be. It's not like she's going to Cancer Man's office. This is Skinner's office, and it's just, I don't know. It's just they go over the top with the mood they're trying to set to point out the fact that this is a shady meeting.
He's asking her for help to look into something, but it's done in the most antagonistic way, as if he's angrily fighting against her, even though he's asking her to do something. It's just a weird scene.
It makes no sense. It's like this guy who's come to Skinner has said, turn all the lights down. I need everything sedate. I don't want to be seen. I need to make sure I'm in the shadows a bit. It's just that it's all just a little bit hokey.
Are you waiting for the torch under his chin as he tells the story?
Yeah. I really am. But it's just, it's a ridiculous scene. And again, that music. And this is a common thread throughout this episode. Every flipping scene just has music. And I find it quite oppressive. So, next scene, we've got music as Scully conducts an autopsy, and Mulder shows up, makes a Michael Jackson joke, and Scully tells Mulder that the CDC want her to look at it from a viral standpoint and not a murder one, which Mulder finds interesting. So Mulder thinks it's a cover-up to hide the fact that no one cares that black men are dying. Then he whips off with some forensic evidence.
Yeah, you can tell he's already got his theories. He's got ideas. Sure, it's wacky as all hell, but he's got theories. He's just I mean, even if he doesn't have a theory, he knows. It's not what his total distrust of anything government, the fact that this has come down from the CDC right there tells him that I've got nothing right now, but I know it ain't that. I know it ain't the thing they're getting you to investigate. So off he goes. What do you think of Scully's role in that? I guess because I don't know how he gets there. It's not like I don't get the sense that she's called him down. I get the sense that he's been looking for her and has gone down to. Yeah, like I've tried the office. I'll try the pathology lab.
Yeah. So she likes doing autopsies.
Right. I have no idea how he gets down there.
Yeah. So, next scene, we meet Samuel Bower. Samuel Bower's immigration counsellor. He comes knocking on Samuel's door. So this is a guy played. What's his name? Can't remember the actor's name, but he's done a lot anyway. He did voice work on a lot of the DC stuff.
Right.
He's done. He was in the TV show Alias, I think it was. But yeah, I've seen him in a lot of different things. But it's just it's basically just a scene to set up this character of Samuel Bower and this immigration officer, and the fact that Samuel is clearly someone who's like so this actor who plays Samuel, he goes we get two kinds of freak, don't we, in X-Files? We get the kind that are seem like normal people but then have a really dark kind of thing going on inside, and then we get the other kind where it's like you take one look at them and you instantly know that they're a freak. You instantly know that there's something rotten about that guy.
I mean, you don't even need to see the guy. The whole room just screams serial killer.
It's the way he opens the door. He's like, yes. And it's just that vacant stare. And it's just, he's our guy. He's our guy. Right. Mulder goes to see Pendrell, who takes the absence of Scully pretty hard. He found a seed indigenous to a certain part of Africa. Yay! It's really enthralling. It's really enthralling. The most enthralling part of that scene is the fact that Agent Pendrell takes it quite hard when he finds out Scully's not coming.
I think my absolutely favourite thing about this is he's like obviously looking for her, and he's like, where is? And Mulder's just like, she's on a date. Just crushing him, absolutely crushing him.
Oh man, Mulder can be a mean SOB at times. He isn't actually the most personable of people. Even when it's someone who's not in the spooky Mulder corner. It's like Pendrell doesn't strike me as the kind who hangs around with a spooky Mulder, whispering about him behind his back and stuff. Yeah. But he still can't help being a bit of a douche with him. I think he's built up these defensive walls for so long that he just nails everyone.
Yeah, it's like it's so unnecessary.
So Scully tells Mulder that the chemical in the seed is a cortical depressant that works on the higher centres of the brain. Scully says that the pituitary gland was necrotized in the victim, causing the pigmentation. So basically science.
Yeah. And it's like you're like, it's a seed. It's a seed.
Yeah. It's a seed. Why have we never heard of this seed as well? These.
It's a seed. It's so nefarious.
I'd have made some serious kind of reconsiderations about my several trips to the African continent if I'd known that this seed was a genuine thing. But
I'm surprised Mulder's not picked it up and ate it. To be honest, he likes his seeds.
He does like his sunflower seeds. But so Mulder goes to see Marita Covarrubias at the UN and asks her if there's anything to this case. Now, I don't know about you, but I think bringing Marita Covarrubias into this episode is a huge waste.
Yes. Yeah, I was like, who's that? I remember.
Yeah.
I said,
So she's basically X's replacement. Yeah.
When she turned up, but I'm like, what is she going to tell them? This isn't like a legacy episode. I know now it's not a big UFO episode or that. It's squeezed light.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. This is the thing. It's like you bring someone like Marita Covarrubias into an episode where you've got Krychek and Cancer Man and things like that. Is that you don't bring her in to
Or
whatever this is.
government conspiracy,
Yeah,
where she's going to have information to help.
yeah.
Not this one.
Oh, yeah. She's wasted on this, really. But it brings her back anyway. It establishes that, yes, she is now Mulder's main informant, but whatever. So we see a man at a bus stop who is attacked by Samuel with music. I put that in big capital letters because all the way through this scene, it is like every woodwind instrument you can possibly think of just flying at the screen. Yeah. My ears feel like they're being assaulted by woodwind during this sequence.
The panpipes of doom.
Yeah, it's just, and we learn that Samuel is essentially blow darting people with this seed to paralyze them, which is totally not exciting in any way. But
no, and it's
whatever.
like the bus drivers I know it's not the bus driver's job to really like get off the bus and help somebody, but this guy's quite clearly in some kind of distress.
Yeah, but I think, I mean, the whole episode is supposed to be a commentary on racism, isn't it? And I think having this like schlubby white bus driver, he's just like, yeah, he's not going to get off the bus and help this black guy because he's racist, because that's really what the episode is about. And it's pointing out that, yeah, no, your average white guy isn't going to help your average black guy in the street. Back in the 90s, I think this may have resonated even more. I don't know, especially because of, you had a lot of the Stephen Lawrence stuff and all that. I can't quite remember what year that was, to be honest, but I'm sure it was around that time. So certainly it would have been, yeah. But it doesn't work well anyway. Essentially, it's just you look at it now. I look at that and I just think, why don't you get off the bus and help him, douche?
Yeah.
Like, see if he's okay. He clearly doesn't look right. But yeah.
It's the middle of the night, nobody else is around, and he's in some sort of distress.
Yeah. Anyway, drive on. So Mulder rocks up with a case file of the man who was killed on the plane. He reckons that they were all attacked by a killer who used the seeds to stun his victims.
Great.
Cool.
Yeah. It's so unexciting. It's not a bad episode. It's just,
It is.
yeah, it's deeply uninteresting. One of those ones when you're like, I can't wait for the credits.
Yeah. It's I mean, like, it's not a bad episode in the sense that the list was, where it's just repetitive, where you've got like 20 minutes of content kind of stretched out into a 40-minute episode. There is a story here. There is links between, from one scene to the next, and there is an attempt to put like some hard science in there from Scully. It's just, like I say, it's totally uninteresting. And anything in the episode that kind of raises an interest, and there isn't much, it's because you're thinking, oh yeah, that's a bit like Squeeze. Oh yeah, that's a bit like Squeeze. And it's just, yeah.
Yeah.
So Samuel gets a knock on the door by police canvassing the area. The victim sits paralysed inside his house. The police leave and Samuel pulls a wand out of his throat.
Cool.
I just find it to be like overly complicated.
Yeah, it's not practical either.
No.
I know people can do things like that, but I mean, we've got to assume that it's there all the time, I think.
Yeah.
And how do you run about and move and be flexible with that apparatus?
It's just, if you look at like a classic X-Files monster of the week, i.e. Squeeze, like Toombs, you look at the Fluke Man in The Host, their physiology, their kind of the way they exist feels organic. It feels like, when you think about Ridley Scott's Alien, and you think about the whole life cycle of that alien, that it feels like something that would exist in nature. Whereas this doesn't. It's a guy, by all intents and purposes. He looks like a normal guy, and he's pulling some weird what looks like a wooden wand out of his neck.
Yeah, and is there not a moment later on where it's alluded to that there's a tribe of these people?
Yeah. So it's
like,
just...
It's like, if there's a tribe and they're all like that, how do they survive?
Yeah, like you say, it's not practical. It's not logical. It doesn't feel like an organic life form that you would find in nature, whereas other monsters of the week do, and that's what makes them scary. The fact that you feel like that could exist. Obviously, they always stretch it. These things don't exist. But it's that suspension of disbelief. And here, you're just like, so the guy has to go around blowing darts to paralyze people, only to then get them to his apartment, only to then pull a stick out of his throat. What? Come on. Like if his mouth opened up and there was just something there that did it, like Blade 2 or whatever, then that would be... Right, so Mulder and Scully go to see Samuel's immigration worker to ask him if he recognises any of the names on the flight manifest. Says it's related to a public health crisis. So...
Yeah, it's connecting the dots, isn't it? It's perfunctory.
From there, they wait for Samuel to return home and argue over whether it is a pathogen or a killer. Samuel shows up, then does a runner, only to be found in a ventilation system, which I found was funny.
A drain pipe or something?
Yeah, like a drain pipe or something. And I just put piss funny.
Yeah,
because it was hilarious. Because he's just hanging there, and you've got Mulder and Scully kind of like, and like just chatting about it while this guy's just kind of.
But there's no.
You found me.
There's no explanation of how he got in there, because it looks like a really tight, small space.
Which again takes you back. It takes you back to the whole Squeeze thing. Yeah. So this is basically Tombs, but with added neck pipe and blow dart. Yeah. Because obviously at the start of the episode there was the implication that this killer can get into tight enclosed spaces. But we never see like an ability to stretch or dislocate body parts or anything like that. But we're told without ever seeing it or having any kind of explanation. Oh yeah, and he can get into tight spaces. So like Tombs. Yeah, but not like Tubes. Right. It feels like they're trying to have too many elements to this monster of the week. They're trying to build up this lore that makes him but it's just like you've picked too many things, stuck them in, you've got no room to explore any of them in any meaningful
I think the
sense.
main problem of this episode is they've chosen to riff and copy arguably the biggest villain they've had so far, like standalone monster of the week, like one that even now is still talked about as being one of the best episodes. So ideally stay far away from it unless it's a continuation of that story. But
there's no need to have this element of him hiding in drain pipes and stuff. It's like even when we get to the end and he's got his hiding space for all the bodies in that place. Well, that would still make a sensible hiding place for this guy. Like, you don't need to have him living in small spaces. It makes no sense. Like, okay, we need to get him into the plane toilet thing at the beginning. That's literally all it's there for. Well, fine, do it in the airport instead. Instead of killing him on the plane in a space that you need to justify getting someone in there, kill him in the airport when they land. It's a part of the killer. It's an element of him that they've just added for maybe explaining one scene, but they don't explain that particular element, so it makes the whole thing just seem fruitless and badly written and confusing and bad writing. So the Doctor pulls Samuel out of a scanner and tells Scully he's found nothing. She says she wants to run more tests. Samuel's immigration worker shows up, wondering why he was arrested. Lectures Mulder, who ain't buying it. So this is the scene that basically kind of hammers home the point of the episode about how refugees are, they're already stigmatized and they have a hard enough time as it is, kind of acclimatise into a new environment. They don't need having more kind of accusations thrown at them and stuff. So in that regard, setting up that kind of argument, the episode in itself doesn't do much to stop that kind of stigmatization. So the episode almost becomes racist in that regard because this dude is the killer. Like if there was a twist,
even the person that's helping almost dies because he believed they were innocent.
Yeah. So it's like if there was a twist in the episode that actually it was some white guy who was targeting black people, and it's just like, and Samuel was actually innocent, then that would feed into the whole racist argument the episode is trying to make. But actually, all it does is call attention to the fact that what this guy is saying is true. It's like we
doesn't even
are
need to be a white guy. It could have been the immigration officer who was using these people.
Using immigrant absolutely.
But alas, that's not what we got.
So Mulder goes to see the African diplomat who was responsible for covering up the plane flight death.
Oh, but it wasn't that good at covering it up because everybody knows about it.
Yeah. So this is where he talks about Teliko, spirits of the air, and I'm just like. So while he's talking about this mythological being, the Teliko, which I can only assume has some kind of historical background within African culture that they've latched onto and just run with. But while he's telling this story about how he came face to face with the Teliko as a child one night, we see Samuel Aboa escaping in a food trolley.
In a drawer, Brian.
In a drawer. Yeah, like Tombs.
Yeah,
like Tombs. Yeah.
Oh man.
So, what do you think about the story? There's a very clear attempt here to build up a folklore myth, kind of a monster. Yeah. But I don't find it interesting at all. It's not compelling in any way.
It's sprung upon us. If the opening scene had been set, had been this man's story rather than the plane, then you've built a foundation to really build on. But now it just feels as though it's perfunctory because this is, we're so far in. This is going to be the the myth that we're giving you now,
Yeah.
and they can't have Mulder discover it because it's a local African legend. So this is it's clunky, is what it is.
It's really clunky. Yeah, it's really clunky. So Scully finds that Oboa has no pituitary gland, just as Mulder arrives to tell her Samuel has disappeared. So again, a little bit like Tombs. It's like that whole thing where he needs livers to sustain him. This dude needs pituitary glands to sustain him. Like Tombs. So Samuel catches a lift with his immigration officer, Marcus Duff. And then Scully tells Mulder that Marcus is missing while Samuel attempts to remove a part of his brain. But he is interrupted by a cop.
Yeah. I do like
he puts
the
it up
idea
the nose, doesn't he? He puts it up the nose.
It reminds me of the Egyptian, the mummification.
Yeah.
Yank. It's a wonderful kind of imagery, and it's kind of like it's everybody's fear. Something getting pushed up the nose. It's
like a COVID swab test.
yeah. Now, this was days before we were familiar with that. It was just part of day-to-day life, but then it must have been horrifying.
But it's just like, so he takes this thing out of his throat, and then he shoves it up someone's nose, pulls something out, and then sticks it back down the throat. Yeah. So needlessly complicated. Scully tells Mulder that Marcus is missing. I've been over that. Wheeled into the van with the toothpick still lodged in his nose. Yes, that was hilarious. I literally almost spat my drink out. I remember sitting there taking a sip, and I almost went when I saw it. And I don't think I've ever noticed it before.
I think I missed this.
Right. And I think this is because I've only ever seen this episode on DVD, and this is the first time I've watched it on Blu-ray.
Right.
Now, I could be wrong. I could be totally wrong. Anyone out there who watches it on DVD, you might say, no, I've seen that. I've caught that before. But I don't ever remember catching this before. They wheel him out, the immigration officer, and he's still got the thing in his nose.
Oh, right. I didn't think it went in.
It was
stopped before. Right.
It's in there, and you just see it. Like they're bouncing this bed up into the ambulance, and you just see it kind of flopping around.
I wish I'd saw it.
Yeah, but I was in hysterics. So Mulder tells Scully his theory. She doesn't look impressed. His Teliko theory. Mulder stops at a building site because asbestos was found on one of the bodies.
Now this is a stretch. I was just like, that's bonkers.
Yeah.
Just utterly bonkers.
Yeah. Like, I don't even...
Here's something else that's bonkers. Samuel's taking them home and then bringing the bodies to a construction site where people
bizarre.
are working, and nobody notices this one room full of dead bodies.
It's so bizarre. It's just like nothing in this episode seems thought out. Like whoever's writing it doesn't ask themselves the question. So this building site, when the builders rock up in the morning, it's it's painfully dull by this point. Like this is literally the point where I was begging for it to end. Once we get to this building and Mulder and Scully are roaming around in tunnels and stuff, I'm just like, man, this is so not thrilling in any way. But Yeah. So they stop at the building where they find one of the bodies. Mulder gets darted, shouts for Scully. She crawls through the air duct to look for him, finds another body, then finds Mulder, sees Samuel, fires 2 shots, finds more bodies, drags Mulder's ass out, then shoots a boa. So there's this really painfully dull moment where Mulder's kind of like paralysed, and he's like, with his eyes, trying to tell her, it's behind you. And just as he leaps, she turns and shoots. So it's not thrilling at all.
No, and I just personally, I think in human nature, if you're talking to someone or you're interacting with someone and they look away from you to the side or something, you just turn.
You follow the gaze. The gaze. It's just natural human instinct.
When somebody's injured, there's a colour about and they're wide-eyed staring at something to the side of you.
And this is a doctor, This is someone who holds a doctorate and has climbed up the FBI. It's ridiculous.
Like, what you saying there, boy? I'm in danger. I should turn around.
Speak up, Mulder. Speak up. Man alive. So we get the final scene in which Scully writes up her report. Oh, I'm even yawning now going through it. It's just basically the one. So this is what Scully's going over in a report when she has her usual addendum thing at the end. It's usually supposed to leave us on a thought, something to think about, something to take away from the episode that's both chilling and yet thought-provoking. It's like, the one thing science cannot explain is the fear of the alien among us. A fear that often drives us not to understand, but to deceive, inveigle, and obfuscate.
Yeah.
Credits.
I was actually waiting for the line at the end to say, not everything's black and white. Because it felt as if it was going to go that really stupid way, and I wouldn't have been surprised if it was there.
One of the other things that really pisses me off about this episode, which I've only just remembered, is this is one of the few episodes, where after the opening credits, we don't get the truth is out there. We get deceive, inveigle, and obfuscate.
Didn't notice.
Yeah,
because I'd already tuned out.
Yeah, but it's like we get that instead of the trust no one, and when they do that, it implies that there's going to be something special about this episode. It implies that they're going to tackle something that maybe feeds into the mythology in a big way, or like that. That's what I think anyway. When I see that they've gotten rid of the trust no, the truth is out there, and they put something else up that's pertinent to the episode. So the fact that it's this is just, it's such an obvious attempt. This is my wrap up. It's such an obvious attempt at squeeze, but trying to build it on an African folklore that ends up being both disrespectful to the African folklore as well as to immigrants in general, and it's shot in such a way that there's no thrills. There's some mild humorous moments, like Mulder's Michael Jackson joke, which again is obvious. Pendrell getting, like, literally that Pendrell moment, best scene of the entire episode. Now I actually put this as a 2 out of 5, but I'm dropping it. This is a 1 because I never watch it. I only watched it this time around because we're reviewing it. But if I watch season 4, I skip over this one every time. It's dire.
Understandable. Do you know what it feels like, Brian? It feels like really bad fan fiction. Somebody that loves Squeeze and thought I could write an episode that's just like it, just as good, and it's missing it's got the beats that Squeeze has. It's got a similar character, but it's got none of the thematics or the connective tissue to make the story work.
Yeah.
It is really, really just mimicking one of their better episodes and doing it so subpar that I'm surprised it's an actual real episode of the X-Files.
Yeah.
I again, I'm going to lower it as well. Not as much as you. I'll go to a 1.5.
Right.
But yeah,
Okay.
poor.
Okay. Well,
So let's change the subject. Tell me a little bit about episode 4, Unruly.
one of my favourite episodes of season 4.
Right.
So again, we'll see how it holds up. Now that I'm coming to it, we're a very clinical. Yeah, let's analyse each scene. Hopefully it will. Hopefully it'll hold up. But yeah, it's always been one of my favourites. I think it's got a really interesting idea behind it. A really good killer of the week, monster of the week kind of thing. Is more of a straight up killer. It's more that he has something paranormal about him rather than him being like a freak kind of thing. You'll know when you see it. But yeah, I find it to be quite a tense episode. Even though I've seen it quite a few times, there's stuff in it where I'm like, oh, so yeah.
That's always good. So that's something to look forward to then.
Yes.
I'm kind of glad. I find these episodes really tough.
Yeah.
Because it's not like something where I strongly detested it, but I really didn't want to continue watching it, at the same time.
Yeah.
Just, it's tough.
It's just when you get an episode like this, and particularly if you get like one or two like this back to back, it kind of stunts your interest to get back into it, doesn't it?
It does.
Like,
it does.
If you're just watching the X-Files and you can just like blitz through them, then not so much, because it's just like, fine, whatever, I'll move on to the next one. But when you're doing what we're doing, where you have to take notes, you have to really think about it, think what you're going to say, this and the other. Like the effort to put that in to an episode like this doesn't fuel the desire to move on to the next episode. So
No, it doesn't. It's like season 2, fearfulsymmetry.cam. Well, surely the next one can't be as bad as this.
Oh, good grief.
Dear God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Fun times. Anyway, let's wrap this one up, and we'll say thank you for listening. Thank you for enjoying the podcast with us. I hope you maybe liked this episode more than we did. There's an email address in the description. You can drop us your comments if you want, and maybe we'll read them out on the show. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next episode for Unruly.